Humble Games is dead. I don't know what Humble Games is.
Game development is a little bit chaotic these days. The most spicy story recently was Annapurna Interactive. They're an indie publisher and every single employee resigned. It was crazy. Today we have a similar-ish story, but it's a name that more people will know. It's Humble, as in Humble Bundle, Humble Store,
Oh.
Humble Games being their publisher. And they did publish successful games. I mean, take Slay the Spire. That was an
Oh, Slay the Spire was a good one.
absolute phenomenon. They published that. They published Unpacking, another hit. It's got 27k in Steam and had a Game Pass deal that I believe did real well. Forager also was a hit in Game Pass, also 31k in Steam, and many other games. And I can definitely say that when you look through every release, yes, not everything seems to have achieved humongous sales, but their hit rate in terms of quality, well, it was good. What nobody seems to have expected, though, was the whole team being laid off. Yes, everybody. Developers were also left in the lurch. They just woke up one day and found the whole publishing team was gone. But what's more interesting
Publishing. Okay.
is what corporate owners Ziff Davis went on to do. It's even more strange, and it's even more revealing. 2 weeks after publishing Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus, the entire 36-person Humble Games team were laid off. We found out about this because of the employees' LinkedIn posts, and it quickly
Okay, so everyone, wow, without exception. Interesting.
became apparent that nobody was expecting this, and that means it was not planned for whatsoever. Half a dozen development teams were left in the lurch. That's development teams who have signed a game with them, who have probably been working in that game for months or years, have its release in the future, and suddenly had no idea what would happen. Of course, for some of them, they were just about to release, which would be even more chaotic. Here we see one of the unsighted developers posting that she just has no idea what's going to happen to their game's Steam page.
Tiana Pixel, follow me on Blue Sky. I'm just gonna throw her in the disposable garbage can right now.
And the thing is, when you're published, well, you don't get paid by Valve. Gabe does not send you a check. What happens is your publisher gets that check, and then, based on your publishing agreement, you receive royalties. Of course, that's if you're due any royalties. Humble responded to this pretty quickly. They, of course, in their statement, talked about their deep empathy. Their empathy for those who were impacted. About the hard economic times. All of the usual stuff, and they said that this was restructuring, which, in a way, was all a little suspicious to people. Without
Okay, let's actually read it in that case. In these challenging economic times for indie game publishers, Humble Games has made a difficult but necessary decision to restructure our operations. Okay? This decision was not made lightly. Restructuring is one thing, but you typically don't lay off everyone. You do it in kind of waves. We all have already talked about this. Not made lightly. It involved much deliberation and careful thought with the goal of firing everyone, I guess, with the goal of ensuring the stability and the support of our developers and ongoing projects. Additionally, the restructuring of operations at Humble Games will have no impact on operations at Humble Bundle. Okay? We are acutely aware of the profound impact this decision has on our team members at Humble Games and deeply empathize with everyone affected. Everyone knows this is lies, but again, you're working for a company. It's not your family. They are not your friends. Never break your back for a company because they will not care if your back is broken. They will say, thank you for the work, but now we need to find someone else. Off you go. So don't sacrifice yourself for a company. Our team's contribution have been world-class and invaluable, supporting the launch of our games since we started publishing in 2017. They're not actually that old. I thought they're not that old, but I thought they're going to be older than that. Wow. We are committed to navigating the transition with as much empathy and understanding as. This is such a corporate post, so at least there is a response, so people shut the fuck up. Okay?
the hard economic times. All of the usual stuff, and they said that this
We are actually oh, this is the same thing. Support the developers. Okay.
Was restructuring, which, in a way, was all a little suspicious to people. What then happened is Aftermath received and verified a copy of the call that took place internally announcing all of this stuff. Here's what we learned from that leaked call. First up, the parent company actually tried to sell Humble Games twice. Second, they say they dealt with long delays and rising production costs. And third, that a third-party consultancy agency, the Powell Group, would take over management and release of future titles. Now that
I've heard of it.
technically is restructuring, but it sure does look like closure and wrapping up commitments, especially when we know that they tried to sell the whole operation. But the thing is, you may think this is cut and dry. The reality is, it is not cut and dry. And where this story gets far more interesting is when we understand Ziff Davis. Today they make all the difference. You've probably never heard of their name, but the chances are that every single day you consume games media, you browse the internet, you come across something that Ziff Davis owns. And after digging into them,
let me check. IGN definitely no. Okla, no idea what that is. Mashable, no idea. Humble, nope. Everyday Help, no. Baby Center, definitely not. Ekaho, Vamba, no. PCback.com. At least I have heard of it. No. BlackFriday.com. Again, haven't at least heard of it. No. Okay, I'm an exception.
Ziff Davis owns. And after digging into them, certainly today's sponsor did the job. Who are Fume, and their mission is to help you substitute bad habits with
Fume's gonna kill you faster than living itself. Failure, you're a shill.
Which is big for many people. That's where Fume really fits. At a time, you'll actually get a topper for free.
Fume has so many problems. The reason that they can call themselves healthy and shit is because they are, because they use what, seed oil or something like that, and that is actually not under the jurisdiction of the FDA or something, or a company that actually chooses. They can call themselves healthy because no one is gonna say otherwise, because no one is under jurisdiction to do that. So that's hilarious.
Free included at.
My point is, don't buy Fume.
And the sickeningly sweet vape rips that we've the build quality topper the video. Ziff Davis is in fact not a person. It's a publicly traded media company found by Mr. Ziff and Mr. Davis in 1920.
But Fume, if you want to sponsor me, you're the best brand I have ever seen in my life.
Now, today they've got 4,700 employees. Last quarter, they brought in $320.8 million. Good for them. And if you've not heard of them, but you play games, well, here's why you actually do see a lot of their content. News Corp used to own IGN. They sold IGN Entertainment to Ziff Davis in 2013. You then might remember that Humble Bundle sold to IGN Entertainment in 2017. And on top of all that, the Ziff Davis gaming empire recently expanded, because just a few months ago, they acquired Gamer Network, which means Eurogamer, Rock Paper Shotgun, VG247, Digital Foundry, and
wow, things I don't care about. Very cool.
Of course, lest we not forget, jelly deals. And of course, as with all acquisitions, this meant that sites were merged, jobs were cut, and there were closures, like with Dicebreaker. So, Ziff Davis then, to understand them, they're a publishing conglomerate. They basically exist to make money via advertising, and they've got no interest in gaming, only the numbers. They exist to harvest up digital assets. As an example, if you've ever tested your internet using speedtest.net, they own that. If you ever decided to go and ask the men over at Ask Men, well, that's also them. And they also have blackfriday.com. Lovely. So part of their model is owning things with good SEO that generate loads and loads and loads of page views, right? But it's not just that. They also want to own the advertising operations, as an example, like those that came with IGN Entertainment and Gamer Network. Ziff Davis, we can all agree, is nothing like the Humble that most of us watched rise through the 2010s. So here's how that happened. Humble Indie Bundle 1 was a humongous viral word-of-mouth success, so much so the two founders raised $4.7 million from Sequoia Capital. In 2013, right, they expand into the Humble store. Then they bring the
Sequoia Capital crap.
Humble Choice subscription, but it's 2017 where things really grow. That's when
But am I thinking about something else?
Humble gets into the publishing of games, and as a package you can see how that would look good. You've got distribution, you've got a market, you've got a brand. Okay, start selling products that you've got way more of a cut in. As an example, take CD Projekt Red. Did you know they actually started off as a localization and distribution? So that's just how those things
Yes.
can grow. It makes sense then that just over half a year after the publishing announcement, they sold to IGN. And you could say that at least IGN worked within games. There was, of course, controversy, right? Editorial ethics that led to public policies, but at the very least, IGN do actually know what a video game is, and probably know what publishing a video game entails. But unfortunately for everybody, and this really is just like a game of Katamari, IGN sold to Ziff Davis, and that meant that their new bosses, well, they may not have understood video games. The two Humble founders, Jeff Rosen and John Graham, exited in 2019, and that is something that always raises the eyebrow. I mean, often an acquisition
Okay, Billiard, stop with the fucking useless fluff. No one wants to care about that. Get on with the murder pot.
deal stipulates that key leadership stay in place for a period. And even if there's no drama, will somebody put in place to manage a brand care as much as the founder of that brand, who nurtured it from its very essence, from the
It's not about caring, dude. That's the thing. It's not about caring. It's about capabilities.
idea stage on the back of a napkin? Almost always the answer is no. They might have literal skin in the game, but maybe not emotional skin in the game. Now, at the time, our two founders said, look, Humble's stable, it's got loads of opportunities, but they just said that their mindset suited startups instead. So, with that, Humble was about to go into a new era. And that new era isn't going to end well. Humble Games did open strong, they did have hits. A Hat in Time, their first one, actually did real well. Slay the Spire, Unsighted, Unpacking, Temtem, Signalis, Void Bastard, and plenty more. As you can imagine, IGN would get what those games are. Probably even reviewed a bunch of them. Ziff Davis, though, will not know what a Void Bastard is. An ex-employee of Humble Games said this to Aftermath. Ziff Davis does not understand the world of game development, and the principle that when you invest money, a game is not released in 6 months, but takes time to be done. And we're starting to not like this when they understood its inner workings. So, with their stock going down, they simply decided they did not want to be in the business anymore. Yeah, so for a group like Ziff, right, publishing is kind of like tweaking the parameters of the money-making machine. They'll think about things like optimizing SEO, or maybe having a manual sales operation to sell, a whole site takeover, a massive banner ad on IGN for the hottest new game. That's the kind of thing they understand. They've got a fairly tight loop between make a change to how the money machine works, see how money comes out of that machine. The problem is that games are creative. A project initially budgeted for 18 months could be a 5 out of 10 if it's released in 18 months. But if the people involved have vision and a little bit more cash, maybe 6 months, could turn that game into a 9 out of 10, one that will do fundamentally better. That's the tricky thing about games publishing. You can have all the ideas and plans in the world, but there fundamentally will be unknown unknowns. And that's fundamentally the rub. Ziff Davis acquired an asset that they wanted, but that asset had baggage that they didn't. What happened next then? Well, the developers of Bow lost access to major parts of their pipeline. They were able to do updates in Steam because if you're a developer, Steam is awesome. You can fire updates to that sucker at all hours. Consoles, though, that is different. QA needed for consoles, also different. The team completely lost access to all of that. Ziff Davis's statement saying operations will continue as normal absolutely did not ring true. Now, the team even tried a Patreon, but that barely moved the needle. Thankfully, over a month later, they finally re-established their console pipeline. So what happened? What changed? Well, there's every chance that the Powell Group handled all of this. They are actually game industry-specific consultants. They were hired because they know what Ziff don't. That means that them hooking up the Bow devs.
Oh, this is where the third party comes in. Because he's talking about this, and I'm just thinking in my head constantly. So, these guys who have a track record of actually achieving shit the way that they do, just randomly decided to go into gaming like that in that sense, that seems completely odd and out of place and doesn't make sense. Why? And then they did no research and decided to do it anyway? Like, what the fuck? How does that make any sense? And there we go. Consultation. The consultation is epic, okay? It's free money.
Probably does make sense. But it also makes the next thing even more hilarious. They've got around this problem by hiring back the Humble Games team. Yes, Ziff got rid of the games team, got a game industry consultant to manage the fallout of that, and the consultants basically just said, yeah, we kind of need those guys back. But of course with the added twist that the consultants do work for the company that hired them. These people are not going to be back as employees. I mean, come on, why would you pay medical insurance for people when most diseases would only prove fatal after you've wound down the operations? Gallows humor aside, Ziff Davis decided to partner with the Good Games Group, and the press release? Well, the press release is sheer comedy. I'll read it for you. Humble Games is partnering with the newly formed Good Games Group, a new indie game publishing company headed by former Humble Games leaders Alan Patmore and Mark Nash, to further support previously released titles. The partnership aims to work with developers to continue reaching and delighting.
Okay, now this does make sense because, yeah, Billy, what Billiard just said, I did not understand a single fucking word of it in those 30 seconds. Okay, so, the Humble people got fired. They just created a new group, a new organization, and are doing the same stuff, and now they got hired by the company that let them go, but this is the trick. By the way, there's so many other real life scenarios where this has happened. I know, and I have heard about a couple of them. I have seen them. Okay, so this is one of the probably most funny parts. This was in IT, if I remember correctly, but it doesn't matter where it is. This happens literally in every field. You have someone who does job X. Management does not understand the necessity for job X. Person who does job X gets fired, then they become an independent consultant or something like that, or go work for a consulting firm, and then that company understands, wait a minute, we actually kind of need someone who does this, but we fired the guy who does and no one else knows how to do it, and blah blah blah. So they hired the same guy that they fired, only now they're paying him one extra zero to do the job that he did previously. Many such cases and stories.
Gamers worldwide. Isn't that great to know, guys? Ziff Davis still wants to reach me and delight me. That just makes me sleep easier at night. Good Games Group's mission is to bring exceptional indie games to the global game community, said Alan Patmore, Chief Executive Officer of Good Games Group. Partnering with Ziff Davis allows us to continue working with the
So how the fuck did this happen? I hope that I hope these guys are suing the consulting group that they had, because it doesn't seem like they just decided to fire them on a random whim. It was probably this consultant group that said, oh yeah, we probably don't need these guys anymore, and they get fired, and now they have to rehire them for a much steeper price. I hope they're getting sued.
Amazing indie developers we collaborated with at Humble Games while allowing us to chart a new course for the future. And that must have been a funny thing for that man to say. He ran the Humble Games division for ages. He got laid off, all of his team got laid off, and the only way he can get back and actually support the people who he made deals with is by having to write that press release, which sucks, which stings. Now, they do seem to be a serious bunch. I mean, when you go to their website, it encourages developers to get in touch for like 2025 and beyond games. So as
Wait, what? Again, I'm getting confused, Billy. I'm getting so confused about who are the people doing what here. What the fuck? Am I only one confused here? Because now it's not the people who fired them, but the people who got fired that are apologizing? The fuck?
much as it is a deal with the devil, you can see the logic. Ziff are right now holding a bag full of contractual obligations that they do not want. They don't need a full publisher, they don't want a full publisher because they don't want to publish games. On the other hand, the ex-Humble people obviously want to publish games, they care about that. So the value of this contract with Ziff Davis is probably enough to let them get the ball rolling. but very much get it rolling. It's not there yet. The good news is developers are taken care of, but the same cannot be said for the staff. Good Games Group is 2 to 10 staff per LinkedIn, and if you just search for individual people, there's only 4, right? So they are small. Remember, 36 people were laid off. So we very much need to hope that Good Games Group are able to raise more investment based on their track record with Humble Games, and that if they do that, they can at least take care of who they can. A big thank you to Fume for sponsoring today's work.
Horrible work, Billiard. Did you just make this video because you wanted to shill for Fume? 0 out of 10. Anyway, that was Billiard. Bye.